Augmentation des blindes. Le ton va encore monter sur le Club Poker Radio. Une émission présentée par Winamax, la référence du poker en ligne.
Le voici et nous avons récupéré Gaël. Coucou Gaël.
Salut à tous. Coucou.
Coucou. Salut.
Toujours contente.
T'es en contre-jour Gaël?
Non.
Non, c'est pas vrai. Non, c'est faux. C'est faux. Peux-tu nous présenter ton invité de cette semaine, s'il te plaît?
Alors, cette semaine, on est avec Jason Wheeler, qui est un
Hey
joueur...
Jason!
Hey,
Welcome to the show!
Thank you.
Un joueur américain dont vous avez, je pense, sûrement entendu parler, puisqu'il est très régulier du circuit depuis une bonne dizaine d'années maintenant. Et il a notamment fini deuxième de l'EPT Prague. C'était contre le
Kalidou.
que Kalidou a gagné. Voilà. Et donc, il a plus de 10 millions en tout de gains live et online cumulés. Et il habite à Prague maintenant. Voilà, il est américain, mais il est de résidence à Prague maintenant. So yeah, I was just talking a bit about yourself. So we are really happy to have you on the show. Finally, it's been a long time. I was saying that you earned, I think, more than 10 million in live and online poker tournaments now, and you're playing poker for a very long time now. And the interesting thing that I realized about your career is that the reason you started playing poker was because of the financial crisis in 2008. So can you explain us like what happened and a bit about what is your background?
Yeah, so like a lot of people, I kind of got into poker in around 2004 when the whole moneymaker thing happened, yeah. And like everybody else is like, oh my God, you can like take a little bit of money and like turn it into like millions. This is like incredible, blah, blah, blah. So I started playing just with friends. And one of my friends, he was very good. And the funny thing was he was so good for the game at the time, he would just play hands to like beat up on us, like 9-3 suited, like all these like hands that you're like, get out of here, you know? And so he used to beat the crap out of me with these hands. And it frustrated me to so end, like to such a degree that I started like kind of studying mostly just to get my friend back. Yeah. And then that's what kind of got me going in the game. And then I was playing like kind of casually at the time, but I had a full-time job. I was working for a consulting firm since like 2002-ish, 2003. And basically went to college, came out of college, and actually it's kind of timing is everything in life. Yeah. So I came out of college and I had a job in place at a big consultancy. And then there was this huge like Enron oil scandal, and the consulting firm behind it, Accenture or Arthur Andersen, they were headquartered in Chicago, which is where I'm from. And so all of a sudden you had 20,000 people out of work in like a weekend. So I went from going into this interview and they're like, yeah, we want you, we're going to hire you. Like, we just have to finalize some paperwork. So I go back in like the next week, you know, and there's like all these guys with fancier suits than mine. They're like more well-spoken than me. They know the lingo. And then I realized they're all these out of work people who are now applying for the same position as me, but they've had like 3 years in the job. Yeah. So they took away my offer and I didn't get the job. So I spent like 2 or 3 years like grinding the pavement. I finally got hired by one of the bigger companies, was working for them for 5 or 6 years and just like pretty much giving my all to it because I come from a pretty humble background. And so for me to even go to college and graduate was like a big deal. And then to actually get like this good job, like I think I started like 43,000, but this is like years ago. So like, I don't know, it'd probably be the equivalent of starting at say like 80 grand today, you know, like this was like real money. And by the time I left, I was making, you know, pretty close to 6 figures when the job evaporated. But I pretty much just poured my heart into it, and like it was a job where you traveled a lot. So pretty much I've had the poker kind of lifestyle like years before I got into poker. Like I would get up on Monday morning, 4:30 a.m. get ready, go to the airport, fly out of Chicago, and say fly to like DC or Denver or some city in the US. I would get in at like 7, 8, 9 in the morning. You'd have to go straight to work. You'd already be late for like meetings, you know. You'd go to the meetings, you'd just start pounding dirt all day. You'd get back to your room, it's like 8 p.m. You're exhausted. You'd like wake up, do the next thing again. Because the thing is about these business jobs, when you travel, it sounds like glorious. Yeah, you're in 5-star hotels, you eat lobster every night. But what they don't tell you is they know they have you. Like, they know you're away from your family. They know that you have nothing else to do but the job. So that means like later hours. It means like you're never technically off. You might get a message like at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. when you're back in your room. Hey, I need you to look at something for the next meeting, this kind of thing, you know? So pretty much just poured my heart into that, but was trying to battle like playing poker on the side as well. It started to kind of become more of like a balance. So like I would be on these trips where normally I would go out to a restaurant with a couple colleagues and we'd order dinner, you know, you had the business expense account, these kinds of things. And it got to where like I was doing that every night. And then like half of the week, I would just be like heading back to my room and I would order the room service back to the room and I would be firing up like tournaments on the side. So it was kind of an interesting dynamic, but obviously because I came from this humble background, like this job was it. I couldn't like say, hey, let me see what happens in poker. Let me pursue this. Like I was just making too much money. It was too much of my dream job. I got to travel. I got to see things, you know, much like I continued on into poker. And then basically, it all kind of came to a halt when the crisis happened. Like the crisis just kind of came from out of nowhere. Like I had just had a review like 6 months prior, got promoted, had an increase in pay, like everything was golden. We had all these projects lined up, but 90% of our work was for banks in the division that I worked. So as soon as the banking crisis happened, they canceled all the projects. So there was no work anymore. Like it didn't matter how good you were, you know what I mean? So the first like call comes around to people, they lay people off, I survive. Second call comes around to people, I survive. Third call comes around, I survive once again. It gets to a point where I call my boss directly and I'm like, hey, can you just tell me what's up? Because should I be looking for another job? You know, are we okay? And he's like, no, you know what? I think this is it. Like, I think we're down to the core group. Like, if we got rid of any more people, we just wouldn't be a company anymore. Like, this is kind of where we were at. And then sure enough, a month later, I get the call and basically we're not a company anymore. Mm-hmm. They like sell bits and pieces off. Like the thing about the banking crisis was the only people they saved was the banks and the CEOs of the banks. All the employees, all the people that contracted, all the people that did work, they kind of got left in the cold. The banks, they couldn't let fail because they held like too many mortgages on homes and these kinds of things. So they saved them. These CEOs were smart enough that they used this money to buy back a lot of their stock. And then when they recovered, they actually own more of the company and are more successful than ever. But there were a lot of people like me who was just like, hey, you've worked 6 years. Great. You've done a great job. We're happy with you, but sorry, we have to let you go. Mm-hmm. And so the interesting thing about how it transitions to poker is basically at the time, I wasn't saving that much money because I thought everything was fine. So, you know, I had some money in the bank to cover like a few months of bills. And then they basically gave me $1,000 a year for every year that I had worked for them. So basically they're like, hey, here's $6,000.
Okay, that's
thank you for the time that you were with us, and, you know, Godspeed, good luck to you, etc. So at this time, I was thoroughly interested in poker. Mm-hmm. I was getting better. People were telling me that I was good. I was seeing results. So the problem was I knew I didn't have enough money to play tournaments. $6,000.
can I just, because I'm going to translate a little bit in French. So I'm going to summarize what you just said right now.
Yeah, no worries.
Parce qu'en fait, oui, ce qui est intéressant, c'est que lui, il travaillait avant, enfin, il avait un vrai travail, et donc, il travaillait dans l'industrie du consulting. Et en fait, il est venu au poker, à faire la transition au poker après la crise financière de 2008, quand il a été licencié par sa compagnie, parce que je demandais un petit peu quel était son parcours. Et au départ, un peu comme tout le monde, il a découvert le poker quand il était étudiant. Il avait un de ses amis qui jouait extrêmement bien, surtout qu'à cette époque, le niveau était beaucoup plus faible. Donc, il arrivait à les battre avec n'importe quel type de main. Et donc, il s'est intéressé à ce jeu. À la base, c'était juste pour battre son ami. Et voilà, il s'est tout de suite mis à fond dans le jeu. Et donc, un peu plus tard, il a commencé à travailler dans une grosse firme de consulting. Ça lui a pris plusieurs années avant d'arriver à avoir ce travail, parce que la première fois, il avait eu un job et finalement, il y avait un gros scandale. Ah, vous m'entendez ou pas?
Oui, on t'entend très bien.
Okay, d'accord, parce que j'ai vu que ça coupait. Et il y avait eu un gros scandale, donc finalement, il n'avait pas eu le job. Et un peu plus tard, il avait réussi enfin à avoir un job. Et il dit que lui, il vient d'un milieu en fait très humble. Et il n'avait jamais pensé avoir ce type. Voilà, c'était un de ses premiers de sa famille à avoir un diplôme, aller à l'université, etc. Et il avait réussi à avoir ce travail. Au bout de très rapidement, il a grimpé les échelons dans la société. Et il arrivait à avoir un salaire à 6 chiffres. Ce qui était énorme, c'était quelque chose qu'il n'aurait jamais imaginé. Il avait un petit peu le style de vie des joueurs de poker, c'est-à-dire qu'il voyageait toute l'année pour le travail. Et ils disent qu'il y a aussi dans ce type de compagnie, ce qui est intéressant, c'est que ils savent qu'ils vous tiennent en fait en quelque sorte, et que vous n'avez pas de vie parce que vous travaillez tellement. Vous passez votre journée, vous allez à l'aéroport à 5h du matin prendre un vol, vous rentrez dans votre chambre d'hôtel et il est 9h du soir et vous avez encore des trucs à faire. Finalement, ils savent que vous ne partirez jamais parce qu'ils vous tiennent vraiment, et que vous ne pouvez pas avoir de vie en dehors de ça, et que vous avez aussi un très bon salaire. Donc, il a dit, moi, je ne serais jamais parti. Finalement, c'est un petit peu le timing qui fait aussi bien les choses, parce que je ne serais jamais partie d'un travail comme ça. Et que finalement, après, il y a eu la crise financière en 2008. Donc, il y a eu plusieurs licenciements d'affilée. Et on lui avait dit, non, t'inquiète pas, c'est bon, tu vas garder ton job. Et finalement, un mois plus tard, après qu'on lui ait dit ça, il a été licencié quand même. Et il a dit, finalement, comme moi, je m'imaginais que ça durait toute la vie, un truc comme ça. Donc, je n'avais même pas mis d'argent de côté, alors que je gagnais très bien ma vie. Comme seule indemnité, ils ont donné $1 000 par année travaillée. C'est tout. Donc, $6 000. En gros, c'est tout ce qu'il a eu comme indemnité pour son licenciement. Et donc, c'est comme ça qu'il s'est dit, bon, tant qu'à faire, maintenant, comme il n'y a plus de travail, de toute façon, il s'est lancé dans le poker sérieusement à partir de ce moment-là. Yeah, so I explained a bit everything about what you were saying. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Très bien. Very good. But no, so it's just interesting though, because here you're sitting here with like the $6,000, yeah, and you're like, what do I do? And like, the nervous person in you just wants to like save this money and like make sure you're fine. I had like some other money in the bank, but like not a bunch, but I was just like, well, here's my chance to try poker, because everybody who worked for banks was affected. It wasn't like the first time around where I could leave Chicago and go get a job, say, in another city. The whole US was affected, you know? Mm. So if I were to go back to work for another company, I would have taken like a half reduction in pay, maybe 2 steps down the ladder. And I had just worked so hard up until that point that I wasn't willing to do that. You know what I mean? So I threw the 6,000 on full tilt. And basically, I knew it wasn't enough to play tournaments. Like, I knew I needed a role. So I had started out, when I first started my career, playing sit and goes, like single tables. And so I basically said, well, you got to go back to like your bread and butter. So I logged on every day for about 9.5, 10 months, just treated it like a job. Would log on at 8 a.m. in the morning, play to 7 p.m., log off 5-6 days a week, watch, repeat. Basically, I played, they had these 9-man turbos, top 3 would get prizes. They didn't have this, you know, crazy stuff they have nowadays, these hypers and 3-man sit and goes. They had 9 mans, top 3 got prize. And basically I played, I think it was 35 or 45,000 of these, made like $2 average a sit and go, and grinded the 6K up to about 75K. And now I had my first poker roll, you should say. So I put like 25 in the bank, put like 25 towards like bills and everything else to like not be worried. And then I had 25K left. And I put that back into poker, and that's like how I kind of started my career. So it's interesting because like, would I have given up my job for poker? I don't think so. Like, it was just too much of a sure thing from what I had come from, you know what I mean? But the loss of my job allowed me to go after poker. And, you know, 12 years later, I'm still here. So, you know, and to be fair, it was basically a continuation of what I was doing, traveling most of the year in hotels, you know, different cities, the same kind of thing I was used to. So.
Non, parce qu'il disait, donc après qu'il ait été licencié, donc il avait en gros que $6 000, puisqu'il n'avait pas mis d'argent de côté, puisqu'il s'imaginait que bah, c'était son job, c'est bon, il aurait toute sa vie, quoi. Et donc il les a mis sur full tilt. Et à l'époque, il s'est mis à jouer à fond sur les sit and go. Il savait très bien que c'était pas assez pour jouer des tournois $6 000, qu'il lui aurait fallu plus. Et donc c'est pour ça qu'il a choisi de préférer le format des sit and go. À l'époque, c'était des sit and go de 9 joueurs, et c'était les 3 premiers qui avaient de l'argent. Il n'y avait pas tous les systèmes d'aujourd'hui, enfin, les hyper, des trucs comme ça. Et donc, il a grindé à mort les sit and go. Il a dit qu'il a joué à peu près en 35 000, 45 000 sit and go, en gagnant genre $2 à peu près sur chaque sit and go. Et que finalement, il a réussi à monter sa bankroll en espace de 10 mois à peu près, de $6 000 à $70 000. Et donc, il a décidé de mettre 25 000 à la banque, 25 000 genre pour payer ses factures, etc. Et le reste, c'était le début de sa bankroll, et c'est comme ça qu'il s'est mis à jouer. Il a dit, mais finalement, ce qui est intéressant, c'est que jamais de ma vie, je me serais mis à jouer au poker professionnellement s'il n'y avait pas eu cette crise et si je ne m'étais pas fait licencier. Et il dit, de toute façon, je n'avais pas d'autre choix parce que je n'aurais pas pu retrouver un autre travail, parce que ce n'était pas à l'échelle de la ville, c'était tous les États-Unis, toute la filière bancaire qui était touchée. Donc, de toute façon, il n'aurait pas pu retrouver un autre travail à moins d'accepter des conditions qui étaient pas possibles pour lui, quoi. Un salaire beaucoup plus faible. Il a dit, mais sinon, s'il n'y avait pas eu ça, j'aurais jamais quitté mon travail, parce que vu de là où je viens, du milieu très humble d'où il vient, il n'aurait jamais quitté un travail qui lui permettait d'avoir ce train de vie-là. Il a dit, au final, ça a été un peu comme la continuité finalement de ma carrière dans le milieu du consulting, parce que grinder énormément, faire énormément d'heures et voyager de ville en ville pour des tournois, c'était un petit peu ce qu'il faisait avant déjà dans son travail. Donc, mais que jamais il aurait eu, voilà, que finalement 12 ans plus tard, il est encore là, et que c'est vraiment un peu grâce à cette crise finalement qu'il a eu sa carrière dans le poker. And yeah, I saw that you had also some difficult moments when you started playing. I read that you lost your first bankroll in 2007, and that your first summer in Vegas in 2009 was quite a roller coaster. Like at first you won, and then you decided to stay in Vegas. You lost against everything, and then you finally like ended second in a WSOP event. So when did you really feel that you were a professional player?
I mean, to be fair, I kind of felt it like after I grinded up this roll, I went back to tournaments. And I was crushing, but not as hard as I had crushed the year before. Because basically I had played high stakes tournaments all of 2005, 2006, and 2007 online, but not with much of a roll. And eventually, like, I don't know, I was playing with like 10, 20K, but I was playing like 5K of buy-ins a day. And surprisingly, that roll lasted for like months. And then eventually I hit like one little downswing and busted the roll. And at the time I was so naive that it absolutely crushed me. Like, I lost this roll that I was like gambling or underfunded with, and I was just absolutely crushed. So I quit playing for like 6 months. It was actually right before I lost my job. I had quit playing. And then I lost my job, and I was like, okay, let's go do this. And when I came back to tournaments, people were more aggressive. They were like 3-betting, they were double barreling, like they were doing some things that they weren't doing before 2008, you know? And so I got pissed off because I didn't like being owned, you know, because I was always the older guy. Yeah, I'm the older guy playing like 20-year-olds. And for me, they were stumbling in it with nothing to lose. I was coming from a career where I had to, you know, I set high expectations on myself from the very beginning, you know. And but it was this moment where I was getting owned by a few of the regs. So I got really pissed off, and I signed up to like all 3 or 4 of the coaching sites that they had that at the time. And I basically went and got a bunch of greens, sat and smoked for like 2 or 3 days straight and watched these videos. Like I didn't sleep for like 2 days or 3 days. Like I just watched videos. And a lot of times people watch the videos and they see something and it amazes them and they try to copy it. Yeah. But for me, what it like lit up this light bulb where it was like, oh, that's what they're doing. Here's what I should do on top of that. And so I immediately went from being like this kind of nittier player to like overnight, I had all these like new tools in the arsenal. Yeah. And so I came back into tournaments with a vengeance and ran up like another like 75K or so and did the same kind of thing, like put 25. And I had 25K right before Vegas 2009. And I actually, a big backer at the time, he messages me because he sees how I've been playing. And he offers me a backing deal for Vegas. But, and at first I accept the deal. But then like, you know, I got this high ego at the time. I'm riding all these kind of wins. I end up calling him back like right before Vegas. And I'm like, nah, thank you, but no, thank you. I'm going to go out on my own. And it was because I was so naive. I thought 25K was plenty of money to go to Vegas with.
Yeah.
I was like, I got 25K, like I got a bajillion. Yeah. I had no idea. Like I didn't come up in a community of players. I had my one friend who like knew a lot about the game, but he wasn't from a community. He wasn't from the school of books, you know, he learned it from playing. And so like, basically I was just naive, but I went on a run. I was playing super well at the time. I was doing a lot of things that other people weren't. Within the first 2 weeks, I had final tabled like 2 or 3 tournaments at the Venetian, and I was up like 55,000. And, you know, we're talking, I've been pro less than 6 months. Yeah. And like, this is huge money on top of the money I've already had spent, you know, blah, blah, blah. And my goal was really just to bank another 25K in the bank and take the other 25K and buy a car. It was all I was trying to do. Because at the time, I didn't really realize what I was trying to do. You know, I was like, I'm going to go out with this goal for the summer, not realizing that if you're a pro, your goal doesn't end after a series. Yeah. But I went to the goal, which just this goal, I'm going to make 50K. So I go and I'm up 55 grand. I call the girlfriend at the time and I'm like, hey, I did it. I made 55 grand. I'm coming home.
I'm coming back home.
I call my buddy Kevin, the guy who used to beat my ass. Now he's getting it handed to him when we play. And he's like, so poker's a hobby? And I was like, bro, did you not just hear me? $55,000. What part of that like says hobby to you? Like, obviously I'm a pro. And he was like, bro, listen, if you leave the World Series of Poker after week 2, you are not a poker player. He's like, this is your hobby. Figure out what you want to do. And he hangs up the phone on me. And I was like, what the hell is this guy's problem, you know? But then the whole night, I couldn't sleep. I was like, he's right. Like, what am I trying to do? And then it was then that I realized this is not like a substitute for me losing the job. This is not like a gamble. Like, this is going to be my career. And so I called back the girlfriend and I'm like, hey, I'm not coming home. We get in a huge fight. Yeah. Call the buddy. I'm like, I finally understand you, but you're not a nice guy. Click. Yeah. And I end up staying. Next 2 to 3 weeks, I run like absolutely like horrific. And I give back like 35,000. And like, this is at this time, this is the most I've ever lost, like in a quick succession, you know? And I'm just like, what did you do? Like, you know, you had it, you had your 25, you had your car, like, what are you doing? But like, I believed in the process, believed in how I was playing. So I stuck with it. And then the last couple of weeks, I just started making run after run, like 60th in one tournament, like 30th in another. And these are huge fields at the time. They're like 4,000 players in like a 1,500, you know. And then eventually, yeah, I make the event right before the main event. I make the final table. And I get heads up versus a guy and a complete amateur guy. And when I went out on break before the match, I said to my buddy, like, listen, if I grind this guy down, it might take some hours, but if I just play slow, there's no way I can lose this match.
Gael is going to need to translate a little bit.
And then I go in and he's playing really aggressive and losing hands. So I try to run him over instead, run into a couple coolers and end up taking second. But for me, I knew before I took the second that I was a pro, but that score was what gave me the money and the validation to then say, I'm all in on poker. And so I took second. I didn't win the bracelet, but hey, this is like, the funny thing was, I was so naive. I didn't set foot in a casino until 2009. I played online since 2004. Because in my mind, I was destroying online. So I thought the sharks had to be in the casino. Like, meanwhile, I didn't know that I was playing like the top competition at the time online, and the casino would be like way easier, you know? But yeah, I knew before, but then with the money, I had the money and the validation, and then I've just been playing ever since.
Non, parce que je disais qu'il avait, au début de sa carrière, il avait perdu toute sa bankroll en 2007, enfin, qu'il avait eu des moments difficiles, et donc je demandais quand est-ce qu'il s'était vraiment senti pro, parce que sa première année à Vegas, ça a été seulement en 2009, finalement, alors qu'il s'était mis à jouer au poker online pendant plusieurs années avant ça, et que ça avait été un été assez vraiment en dents de scie. Il avait connu beaucoup de hauts et de bas. Et donc, il disait que, oui, effectivement, en 2007, voilà, en fait, avant 2004, 2005, c'était quand il avait encore son travail, il s'était rapidement mis à jouer des high rollers. Et donc, voilà, il n'avait aucune idée. Il avait eu quand même de la chance au début, mais il n'avait aucune idée à l'époque. Enfin, il était assez naïf sur tout ce qui était la bankroll, etc. Et que finalement, il avait vite perdu à un moment donné. Donc, il avait tout reperdu, parce qu'il s'était mis à jouer des tournois high rollers. Et qu'en 2009, il avait réussi à regrind, etc. Et il avait 25 000 $. Et donc, en 2009, il s'était dit pour la première fois d'aller au World Series of Poker, et qu'il y avait quelqu'un qui le stackait à l'époque et qui lui avait fait un deal de stacking pour plusieurs tournois. Et lui, il a dit qu'à cette époque-là, il était super naïf. Au début, il avait accepté le stacking, et finalement, genre quelques semaines avant Vegas, il avait rappelé en disant « Non, en fait, c'est bon, j'ai pas besoin d'être stacké, etc. J'ai 25 000 $. » En se disant, avec 25 000 $ à Vegas, WSOP, je suis large, quoi. Il a dit, j'avais aucune idée à l'époque que finalement, 25 000 $ pour faire les WSOP, c'est absolument, c'est rien du tout, quoi. Et que lui, son objectif, c'était voilà, de gagner, de faire genre 50 000 $ et d'avoir assez d'argent pour s'acheter aussi une nouvelle voiture, et c'est tout. Et qu'ensuite, il rentrait. Et qu'il avait eu un bon run au départ, il a fait plusieurs tables finales au Venetian, et il était up de 55 000 $. Et donc, voilà, il avait appelé sa copine en disant, c'est bon, voilà, j'ai fini ma mission, je rentre. Et qu'il a appelé son copain avec qui il avait commencé à jouer au poker. Et son pote lui a dit, mais si tu crois qu'en ayant fait 50 000 $ et que tu pars des WSOP au bout de 2 semaines, que tu es pro, non, tu n'es pas pro. C'est ton hobby, c'est un truc pour t'amuser si tu veux, mais tu n'es pas pro. Et donc ça l'a vachement blessé dans son ego, en fait. Et donc, il y a réfléchi toute la nuit. Et le lendemain, il s'est dit, ouais, non, c'est vrai. Donc, je vais prouver que je suis pro, etc. Je reste à Vegas. Donc, ça n'a pas du tout plu à sa copine de l'époque. Mais bref, il est resté à Vegas. Et malheureusement, il a tout reperdu. genre en 2 semaines, il a tout perdu. Et
le conseil du pote, le bon conseil du pote. Merci le pote.
Le conseil du pote. Et donc, il s'est dit, qu'est-ce que j'ai fait comme connerie, quoi. Et finalement, avec le peu qui lui restait, il a réussi quand même à remonter. Et il a fait la table finale d'un event, quelques jours vraiment avant la fin de Vegas. Il s'est retrouvé en heads-up contre un joueur qui était amateur. Donc, il était persuadé qu'il allait gagner le heads-up. Que ça allait durer plusieurs heures, etc. Mais que s'il jouait, qu'il restait bien sérieux et tout, qu'il allait gagner le heads-up.
C'était un 1500 no limite.
Ouais, il a pris 400K, je crois.
C'est ça, 420K.
Ouais. Et donc finalement, bon, il n'a pas gagné le heads-up, mais il s'est rendu compte, ce qui était le plus drôle pour lui, c'était de se rendre compte à quel point il avait été naïf, déjà de croire que $25 000 pour le WSOP, c'était suffisant, et surtout de croire que comme lui, il jouait pendant des années online, il s'était dit, online, c'est là où il y a tous les joueurs amateurs, et le live, c'est là où il y a les gros sharks du circuit. Et qu'en fait, il se rendait pas compte que c'était plutôt l'inverse, en fait, et qu'en live, il y avait beaucoup de joueurs amateurs, et que finalement, ça valait vachement le coup de jouer en live. Mais ce qu'il a aussi aidé, ça j'ai oublié, à faire monter son niveau au niveau supérieur, c'est que pendant la première fois qu'il a perdu sa bankroll, il s'est dit c'est bon, j'arrête le poker, c'est pas pour moi, etc. Et donc du coup, il n'a pas joué pendant 6-7 mois, ou même plus, je crois. Et quand il est revenu sur les tables online en 2008, le niveau avait beaucoup augmenté. Et donc, il s'en est vachement voulu parce qu'il s'est rendu compte que les gens jouaient vachement plus aggro. Ils voyaient des moves qu'il n'y avait pas avant, des 3 barrels, plein de raise flop et tout, des trucs qui n'existaient pas. Et donc, il a regardé vachement online. Il a fait plein de sites de coaching. Il a regardé plein de vidéos. Et lui, il s'est rendu compte comment jouer ses joueurs et comment contrer ce style de jeu plus agressif. Et que vraiment, en quelques jours, ça a switché un peu dans son cerveau. Ça a vraiment... il a compris un truc et que de là, il a de nouveau gagné online et réussi à remonter une bankroll. Mais donc voilà, en gros, j'ai un petit peu tout expliqué.
Bravo, Gaël. Franchement, tu es trop fort.
Yeah, I'm good at summarizing. After more than 10 years on playing poker and traveling for poker, how do you see the future of your career?
Well, it's different now because I live kind of a different life. Like, I have a family now. I have my daughter, which is not things, before it was just me. I just had to worry about myself. If I was traveling 48 weeks a year, it was fine. And now I don't want to make those same kind of decisions. So I'm traveling a lot less. I'm playing online a bit more again. I basically became a live player for many years. Because I thought the edges were bigger live. My reads and edges live were bigger than what was happening online, that people were closing the gap online, but there was still big edges to be had live. So, and it's been a successful strategy. I basically, the story of my career is I hit a big score every, year, 2 years. And then I kind of hit like scores that keep me around. And then I hit like another score again. And then, I never really had that momentum run where I just, I can take that one and then the next big one just comes right away. It's usually like, it goes up and then I hit like the little scores, but, with the kind of stakes I was playing for years, you have to win so much to keep all the machinery going, especially if you're traveling. I mean, you can rack up such an amount of money just on traveling, hotels, expenses, that you have to win as profit and actually put your profit towards before you're actually in profit. So, I still love the game. Listen, still think I'm very good at the game. And do I have the same edge over everybody that I had in 2008? No. Everybody uses the programs. Back when I grew up in the game, listen, you had to figure this stuff out on your own. Somebody had to sit there and say, hey, this guy's owning me by doing this. Maybe I should, he's almost jumping off a cliff. Maybe I should just leap off the cliff. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that, and examine it. And nowadays you plug in some inputs and a program says, hey, you bet too much. People can get this instant feedback where it was way more touch and feel for us. So, you know, is it something that I see myself doing for many, many more years? I hope to pull more out of it. I just simply, listen, there's kids coming up who are hungrier and chasing it more than me. You know, I have the family, I'm living a different life. I want more of this balance. There's other kids who can just give up the balance and do nothing but study and play 10, 11 months a year. I don't want that life for myself at this time. So, you know, I've pulled back actually in the types of buy-ins I've been playing over the last few years to not swing as hard as I once was. It's a swallow of ego and pride. I'm happy to do that at my stage in my career. I think I've proven enough. If you want to say, hey, I don't know what combo to use in this spot, or I bet 28% and 20% is optimal. Okay, kid, fine, you got me, yeah. But if you think it's going to be easy to play me across streets, across different stack depths, when ICMs in play, when final tables are on the line, like, good luck, buddy. Like, by all means, strap in the seatbelts, let's go. I'm very comfortable with my exploits and my experience in the game. But to be the best nowadays, it takes a different level than it did when I played. When I played, you could get your lessons Victor Bloom style on the table. You could pay for your lessons. Stevie would owe me in a spot. I'd say, wow, 2 years ago, I could bet that spot. Now, apparently, I'm getting resistance. Why is that? I don't have to necessarily have a solver and put in every input to know that something's changed. You know, I can know that from experience and then ask myself the question why and kind of be my own solver to a certain degree. But I just, you know, at this stage, do I want to sit there and study 10 hours a day and play 12 hours a day? I just don't. So I see myself around playing, hit a few more scores that kind of solidify the career, allow me to take a little bit more out and do some more investments than what I have in some different things. Kind of ready to try stuff, own some little businesses, see what I can do with them, these kinds of things. You know, it's been fun. I would have liked to have finished a little bit more first than seconds. You know, I took the second in the WSOP. I took second to Kalidou. And, you know, listen, I'm no ill will there. Like, I know a lot of people thought that, like, we were really battling on the final table. A lot of it was for act and show. And the true secret of it is a lot of it didn't even have to do with Kalidou. Like, I was worried about the young guns. I was worried about Colin, this young kid from the USA. He was willing to put it on the line. I was a little worried about Maracas from Czech Republic. He had won $1 million that year. Like, nobody knew about him. He was playing very aggressive. He was willing to put it on the line. A lot of that was for show to slow those guys down. You create the confrontation between two guys. It makes the other three guys say, hey, we're going to stay out of it. And, you know, love it or hate it, big money's on the line. I'm a smart guy. I'm going to use every edge I think I have. When me and him see each other now, we say hi all the time. Wish him luck. You know, there's no ill will there. It was all strategic. None of it was real anger or whatever it may have seemed. So, but yeah, still around enjoying the game, but definitely not out there like the young whippersnappers, like playing every single thing. I just don't have that urge anymore.
Parce que je demandais donc un petit peu après une dizaine d'années à grind comme ça, comment il voyait maintenant le futur et sa carrière. Donc il a dit c'est sûr qu'évidemment il se voit pas jouer comme il jouait avant. Voilà. Et après aujourd'hui maintenant il est une famille, il a un bébé. Donc c'est sûr qu'il ne se voit pas voyager 48 semaines par an comme il faisait avant et être tout le temps sur la route. Ah bah voilà.
Oh, hello.
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 Somebody woke up.
Seems like, oh yeah, she woke up.
Don't look at Chichi. Chichi, cache-toi.
Ah, regarde. Moi aussi, j'ai mon bébé. Attends, je montre mon
Il va
bébé.
nous sortir son chat.
Coucou. Coucou.
Putain, les gars, moi je vais aller chercher mon fils, il est en train de dormir, je vais aller le réveiller. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a?
Et que voilà, c'est évidemment quand tu as une famille, tu as des enfants, tu peux plus te permettre d'avoir la vie du joueur de poker qui est tout le temps sur la route. et que il a baissé en buy-in. Ça, c'était intéressant parce qu'il a dit que voilà, aujourd'hui, il a préféré, il peut plus se permettre d'avoir des fluctuations dans sa bankroll comme il avait avant et de prendre des risques comme il faisait avant. Donc, il a pris la décision de jouer des plus petits buy-in et que ça a été voilà, dur d'avaler ça au niveau de son ego, etc. Que c'est pas facile pour un joueur de poker de prendre cette décision, mais que c'était la décision la plus sage parce qu'aujourd'hui, voilà, il veut plus rester, avoir une stabilité. Et quoi d'autre aussi. Et puis qu'aujourd'hui, évidemment, les choses ont bien changé. Le niveau est beaucoup plus difficile qu'avant. Il y a beaucoup de jeunes de 20 ans qui, eux, ont le temps de passer toute leur vie des centaines d'heures par semaine à étudier le jeu. Mais lui, il veut plus avoir voilà, un équilibre que la plupart des jeunes joueurs de poker aujourd'hui n'ont pas forcément besoin de cet équilibre. Donc, ils passent tout leur temps à étudier le jeu. Et lui, c'est plus quelque chose qu'il a envie et qu'il peut se permettre de faire. Donc, voilà, il préfère jouer des tournois voilà, un peu moins chers et puis consacrer avoir un équilibre. Il vit à Prague aussi. Et par exemple, c'est sûr qu'il regrette de ne pas avoir eu des grosses victoires. Il a fini deuxième des WSOP, deuxième d'un bracelet, deuxième de l'EPT Prague quand c'est Kalidou qui a gagné. Et il a dit que c'est ta finale et il avait peur de peut-être d'autres joueurs que de Kalidou. Il y avait un jeune qui s'appelait Collins, un joueur américain qui était très agressif, qui redoutait pas mal, et le joueur de République tchèque aussi qui avait gagné 1 million cette année-là et qui était donc sur une super bonne période. Et qu'il avait créé cette espèce de show avec Kalidou.
Ouais, il y a du trash talking un peu et tout.
Voilà,
C'était
ça.
marrant.
Mais que c'était vraiment, voilà, il disait que c'était vraiment plus pour le show et pour créer aussi une dynamique à table avec ces autres joueurs-là, de en gros pas trop se mettre finalement dans leur chemin. C'était quelque chose de stratégique, rien du tout de personnel. Et qu'aujourd'hui, quand ils se voient, ils se disent bonjour, que des bonnes choses et que donc voilà, c'était plus un truc stratégie pour faire du show à ce moment-là. And what's her name?
Sophie.
Ah, Sophie. Hello.
Hello, Sophie.
Hello, Sophie.
Hey, hi. No, the Kalidou match was very fun. I was worried probably the least about Kalidou just because I knew he had the least experience, even though I respected his stack, I respected how he was playing. But Kalidou played very smart. Like if you watch the final couple tables, he wasn't putting all of his chips in unless he had it. Like, yeah, he made moves pre-flop, he made moves on the flop, but when he had his chips in, he had the aces cracked, he had the kings cracked. The reason why I worried about Maracas was he was the only person who 4-bet on the final table. There was a hand where I opened the button with nines. Kalidou tried to 3-bet with like king 9 suited, and then Maracas 4-bet like I think it was 9-10 suited or 8-9. It was one of those types of hands, and then I actually 5-bet the nines. This is like 4-handed play or something, 5-handed play, and I won the pot. But I was really kind of irritated in my head because I was like, he went for it. And the thing is, when you're on these FT spots, you actually don't want people that are going to go for it. You want people that are just going to follow the rules of ICM. This is what you do with your stack to ladder, to make your money, to realize your equity. When a guy is willing to say, screw that, I want the title, screw that, I've won $1 million already this year, I'm going for it. Because the thing was, what people downplayed was Marrakesh was from Czech Republic. He wanted that trophy just as much as I did. Like I wanted it because I moved to Prague and I wanted, you know, my new hometown. But like he is Czech. He wanted that trophy bad. And so when I saw the 4-bet and he had did several 3-bets before, it was like, okay, I need to slow this guy down. And me and Kalidou were already going at each other. So I was like, okay, let's just expand this narrative. That's essentially all it was. But yeah, hey, him winning was good for the game. He was able to get signed by stars, represent the French players, you know, kind of help to grow the game. That's all good. They weren't going to sign an American guy. You know, for me to get signed, I would have had to win the WSOP years ago. I would have had to win some other stuff. And, you know, know the right kids in the industry type of a thing. And I was never that guy. I never kissed anybody's butts. I never sucked up, you know, I just played my game. So kudos to him. I obviously really wanted to win, but yeah, I know it looked kind of vicious to the outsiders, but you know, hey, you play for 12 years, when all the money's on the line, you demand a certain level of respect, and it translates to a certain amount of dollars as well. So, you know, I was happy with that FT because I was the most exhausted I had ever been. I had played 11 days of poker straight because I had went deep in the 1K, made day 3.5, went deep in the 2K, was piling into cash games because they were really good. And then at the time, crypto was booming, like way more than poker. So I was actually spending like 10 hours a day, like absorbed in the crypto universe. So I was probably the most exhausted I've ever been in my entire career on that final table. So like, I don't even remember most of the heads up match, except that I lost a bunch of hands and then lost my cool and shoved all in. Like, and then next thing I know, I'm walking out of the building. But yeah, I mean, about the only thing you regret in your career is, you know, the close ones that you didn't finish them out. But like, hey, the things you do to get you there, that's all you can really do, and you let the rest kind of do what it does. Yeah.
Non, parce qu'il a parlé un petit peu de la table finale.
On est en train de perdre Gaël.
On est en train de perdre Gaël un peu.
Gaël, on est en train de te perdre.
Ah oui. Vous m'entendez là?
Ah là, on t'entend.
Ah. Ok, bon, c'est bon. Non, parce qu'il craignait pas mal le joueur tchèque. Je ne sais pas dire son nom.
C'est Mirakis, je crois. Mirakis.
Au bon les deux brebis.
Mirakis, voilà. Et qu'il a dit que c'était le seul qui faisait des forbets à la table finale. Et que par exemple, il avait forbet avec genre 8 et 10, un truc comme ça. Lui, Jason, il a raise, il avait paire de 9. Ensuite, Kalidou a 3 bêtes avec genre roi 9. Et l'autre a 4 bêtes avec genre 18. Et quand tu vois un joueur comme ça jouer à 4 lèvres, 5 lèvres d'une table finale, tu te dis que c'est vraiment pas lui que tu as envie de jouer parce que clairement, il joue pas ICM, il joue pour la gagne, d'autant plus qu'il était tchèque et qu'il voulait ramener la victoire à la maison. Comme lui, finalement, autant que lui, puisque comme il est installé à Prague, il aurait adoré gagner le tournoi à Prague, mais qu'il préfère forcément jouer des gens qui jouent ICM, où tu sais ce qu'ils vont faire que... Tu vois, il dit par exemple Kalidou qu'il avait joué aussi très intelligemment, mais que sur les dernières tables de l'EPT, il s'était jamais en gros mis en danger. À chaque fois qu'il était all-in, clairement il avait les nuts en fait, et qu'il n'avait pas fait des moves comme ça, un petit peu de folie à faire des forbets, des trucs quand il n'avait pas la meilleure main, et donc voilà, on l'avait vu effectivement jouer beaucoup contre Kalidou, etc., mais que celui qui craignait le plus, c'était le joueur tchèque. Et que, évidemment, c'est toujours décevant de ne pas avoir des grands titres dans sa carrière, mais qu'après, au final, tu es quand même heureux de tout le chemin que tu as parcouru et des résultats que tu as fait. Et c'est ça qui compte le plus, c'est les résultats que tu as eus. Et que, surtout à cette époque-là aussi, il était vraiment épuisé parce que c'était la grande époque où les bitcoins et tous ces trucs-là, c'était la folie, et que lui, il étudiait ça, genre, il était à fond là-dedans et il passait des heures et des heures par jour à étudier la crypto-monnaie, et qu'il était vraiment hyper fatigué à la table finale, et qu'il se rappelle quasiment même plus d'ailleurs des dernières mains, et qu'il était vraiment épuisé, mais qu'il respectait vachement le jeu de Kalidou. Il a dit au final c'était très bien pour le poker parce que c'est ça ensuite qui l'a fait signer par PokerStars, que c'est un bon représentant, que si c'était lui qui avait gagné, jamais de toute façon Stars l'aurait signé lui, ils n'auraient pas signé un joueur américain, et que voilà, ça a été une bonne chose pour le jeu et que pour représenter le poker. Et qu'au final, il est content de toute façon des résultats qu'il a eu dans sa carrière d'une manière générale et de ce qu'il a accompli d'une manière générale. Voilà, j'ai résumé un petit peu.
Bon résumé, Gaël, bravo.
Ouais.
No, and he's done all of that well. Like, listen, Kalidou goes to all those small events. He talks to people. Listen, you're not going to get me to want to go to a €100 event, to a €300 main event. Like, it's just not a good use of my time. So he's represented the community well. Like, kudos to him.
Ouais, qui représente bien la communauté et que voilà, il parle avec tout le monde, qui va sur plein d'events aussi avec des petits buy-in, des events, voilà, plus de il fait souvent des events en province, etc. en France. Et que lui, c'est sûr qu'il n'aurait pas fait ce genre de choses de toute façon. Donc il représente très bien le poker. C'est un très bon ambassadeur.
Bon ambassadeur.
Ouais, voilà. And yeah, you have a lot of experience of the poker world now. What would you say about its evolution in general, the good and the bad sides?
I mean, I think the good side is that it's a worldwide game now. Yeah, like when I came up, it was an American game. The rest of the world was trying to learn it, and for the most part, the Americans were the best. Like, it sounds kind of funny saying it today because you say it today and people are just like, huh, what? But like back then, my fish tags were on the European countries. So it's great that it's a worldwide game nowadays. I mean, I love that. That means that the longevity of the game is going to be there. I think low buy-in tournaments, and what I mean by that is I mean like $500 and $1K and 1,500 main events. I think they've never been better live. They get good. They put big guarantees on them. They get a lot of people. The people seem to have fun. It's kind of hard to justify, say, a high-stakes pro flying across the country to play a 1K as the main event when you have expenses and everything else into play. Because if that pro doesn't final table that 1K, he's essentially not made a good use of his time and his investment, right? When his other choices are, he could go play cash games, he could play online tournaments, he could go find a series with more events. Like, you know, our game at the end of the day is a numbers game, you know. But I think that overall for the general poker community, these buy-ins are great. These 500, these 1Ks. I mean, you see 500K guarantees, 1K, 1 millions, and they all do great. And I think the future of those tournaments is secure. I think where you start to have a big drop off is once the buy-ins get higher. They've created such a high stakes world within the high stakes world that it's created kind of a weird situation in the middle stakes, you know, like these 5K to 10K buy-ins. And I think a lot of that money isn't there like it used to be. I don't think you can fill a room at 5K buy-ins and 10K buy-ins over the long term like you could in the past. Okay. So I think we're gonna see some changes like as it comes up. Like Corona was a good example of this. The games were amazing for like a month, even though they were great for 2.5, but they were amazing the first month. Second month, you saw a big drop off because the thing was, the guy who came in just to have fun and give his money away, he couldn't go bet on sports on Sunday to get it back. He couldn't go work his job to get it back. That money left and he has no way to replenish it to come back. And everybody's so hungry now. It's not like the old days. You know, the old days at your local game, you knew who the fish were and you wouldn't bust the guy. You would take a lot of his money, but you would never take his money to the degree that he would go to the ATM machine and get more and max out his cards, because then he left the game pissed and frustrated and angry, and you might lose that guy from the game. You know, there used to be this old code to the game where you would let John and Mark kind of survive. You let him leave with gas money and food money and a little bit of pride, and make it more about the camaraderie and the stories and the good time at the table, so that he almost justifies his loss as acceptable. Next week, John's back in the game. This doesn't happen anymore. People see a John or a Mark, he's just that, he's the Mark. You hit him as hard and fast and as often as you can before somebody else gets it. And before Corona, these people sometimes had ways of replenishing it, coming back, and they just didn't. So by month 2, you saw a huge drop off. And now, like, they're struggling to throw something together right now. Now they're being quite ambitious with all the series they're going to launch next month. I think that particular brand, the WSOP brand, has enough clout to maybe pull it off. But the money's simply not there like it was. I mean, a lot of money got shifted around in these last 3 months, and a lot of guys didn't have their other ways of replenishing it. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, this whole argument about solvers and all these other programs, listen, there's always going to be a spot for somebody if they're willing to swallow something. Move down in stakes, swallow pride, swallow ego, look for the right game. You know, there's some guys who eats ego, they go right to Bellagio, they sit down in any game. There's another guy, he goes to Bellagio, he gets his name on a list, he goes around and he sees the tables where the guys have been drinking, where the guys are playing loose, where the guys seem to be having a good time, not focusing so much. He sits down at table 3, but immediately asks for a transfer to table 6. You know, there's always these spots and opportunities if you're looking for them. The game's not going to dry up and go away. But it might not mean you can fire 5Ks and 10Ks with impunity. You know, it might not mean you can play the entire schedule. You may need to say, hey, listen, I like PLO, but it's not my specialty. I should skip it for this series, these kinds of things. So it's always interesting to me because I definitely think the ecosystem has some hurt and pain right now. But with that said, I thought that the series live and online that we're focusing on, like these lower buy-ins, they were all a smashing success, and they didn't hurt anybody to the degree that anybody felt bad about it, unless it was one of these like 60 day one flight kind of like, you know, joke-a-thons. But yeah, so I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's getting tougher. Edges are getting smaller. I think the main difference is the amount of money you need. You know, back when I came up in this game, you could spin a roll anytime. So you could take the risk. You could put it all on the line and risk your whole bankroll over the course of 6 months, because if you lost it, you borrowed 10K from a friend who did well, and you could spend that 10K back up to 50K, and then spend that 50K to over 100, and then you were rolling again. But what it takes to do that nowadays is much more difficult. There's not as many chances. The tournaments that you can do it in, when you get deep, it's a tougher field, a more aware field, these kinds of things. So I think that's the main difference, that if you go broke in this game, or if you get hurt in this game, it's hard to return to the top. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the past you could. And I think that's the big difference, that you have to be more smarter. You know, I used to have one of the biggest egos in the game. Like, you either swallow it at some point, or you get swallowed by it, or you run good and study enough at the right times that you can keep it going. Like one of those, yeah. But the reality is there's few people in this game that have actually put forth the work and the effort and the experience and went through the ups and downs enough to even make those kinds of claims. Like, you know, the end of the day, luck plays such a big part of this game. And our industry is so focused on results. You know, like my name, some people probably be like, why do you have this kid on? You know, his last big score was EPT Prague. You know, because they won't understand the longevity of the career, and that I've played everything, and that I've done my career mostly playing big fields, which is harder. If I had gambled with all my money and played a bunch of 40-person field tournaments, I would either have been out of the game by now, or you would hear about my name all the time. Because you're only playing 40 people. You make one sick call, you make one sick all in, now you're on the final table. Now ICM rules the day. It's not that you're the best player in the world. It's a bubble, you know how to play it, here we go, yeah. Mm-hmm. But when you're playing thousands of people, it's a different game. So, you know, it's these types of things. We're so results driven, when the reality is results, even though we care about it the most, it's such kind of the joke of the career, because it's so much more timing and luck. You hit a score at the right time. It gives you the confidence to trust your plays. You trust your plays in a few more tournaments that you're now able to play because you have the role, and you go on some run. Whereas if you go on some downswing for scoop, what happens when W coup comes around? You have to sell a schedule or you have to reduce your buy-ins. Now, when you beat, you only get 40% of that money. You know, it now takes you that other 60% you have to make on your own again to get back to where you would have been. You know, so I think these are the kinds of things that it's hard in our career because we're so focused on these results, and results define us and define us and define us. But the results don't reflect necessarily who studied the most, who's the best. Like, you know, it just doesn't. Luck is such a huge component of the game, and then everything feeds off it. And you see it all the time. Somebody hits one score and then they seem like they can't lose. And nothing changed except for their mindset, their confidence, and their bankroll. They didn't automatically start sun running to the gods like everybody claims. You know, oh, he's sun run, oh, he's sun run. No, now he's playing a 2K where last month he had to skip 2Ks. Now he has confidence to make that triple barrel bluff, whereas before he's on such a downswing, he's afraid to go out of the tournament there. And, you know, these are the kinds of things. But I wish there was a way to not define us by results. But obviously this is just the way it's going to be. And that's why I'm very fair with people. I'm like, listen, my results sometimes, you know, I go on downswings. You know, I go for it. I play hard. I go for the win. Like, anybody who says that they don't, like, you know, it's how you deal with it. And, you know, it's the nature of the game, and we have to deal with it. But I think the nice part about it is when you get used to dealing with these types of things, it prepares you for all of life. Like, because everything else in life, you give effort, you get a reward. You know, you go out there in the sun and you start hammering on your house, your roof is in better shape. You know, you go and you run 6 miles, you lose weight. You know, like, ours is one of the few careers where you could study hard, you could work hard, you could play hard, you could win 95 hands out of 100, but you lose the 2 big hands with 2 tables left that are flips, you lose money. And, you know, it's a very hard thing if you play as long as I have, and especially from where I come from this game, we all played underfunded. So you're not playing under the 100 bankroll rule, the 200 bankroll rule. Like, you're not playing under these rules. So these spots are so much bigger than they should be, and they're supposed to be. And they're so much more defining in your career, because you shouldn't really be in the spot in the first place because you don't really have the funds to play the tournament, you know? But this was always the nature when I came up in the game. This is how we did it. And this is pretty much what I know. But yeah, I think it's always funny because we always joke and say the best actual poker player in the world, it could be somebody in his mom's basement and you just don't know about him because he didn't get the break or have the network or have the bankroll or win the key flip to then carry on, you know? So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Parce que je demandais, donc après voilà, une dizaine d'années dans le poker, quelle était ma question? Ah oui, comment il voyait son évolution, quel regard il portait sur son évolution et les bons et les mauvais côtés. Et donc il a dit que par rapport à quand il a démarré, c'est sûr que c'est beaucoup plus difficile maintenant, mais j'ai un peu perdu le fil. Parce qu'il y avait trop de trucs super intéressants en plus, mais là, du coup, j'ai perdu le fil de mon...
De toute façon, après, enfin, moi, pour une fois, enfin, on a compris en anglais, on a quand même compris globalement le propos, mais...
Non, mais par exemple...
Après, t'écoutes pas.
Il a parlé de l'évolution des buy-in, il a
Ouais,
parlé de sa gestion des buy-in.
Par exemple, de middle buy-in, $500, $1,000 jusqu'à des main events à 1500. Donc, ce genre d'event-là, que ça avait vraiment explosé par rapport à il y a 10 ans. Et ça, c'était vraiment une bonne chose parce que ça ramène énormément de joueurs, toujours plus. Et que c'est aussi voilà, très fun, c'est super bien pour les joueurs amateurs et qu'il y a toujours une bonne ambiance et qu'il y a toujours de plus en plus de monde. Ça cartonne vraiment ce genre de format de tournoi-là et ce genre de buy-in. Après, en tant que joueur professionnel, c'est pas forcément super intéressant de prendre le temps de voyager sur des tournois comme ça parce que c'est finalement beaucoup de frais et si tu n'atteins pas la table finale, ce que tu vas gagner, c'est pas ça qui va te faire gagner ta vie en fait. Donc, c'est pas forcément ultra intéressant pour un joueur pro d'aller sur ce type de tournoi, mais que ça, c'était vraiment un des aspects qui avait le plus explosé par rapport à lui quand il a commencé à jouer. Mais par exemple, du côté des mauvais côtés, lui, il trouve qu'il y a de plus en plus au niveau du high roller, un espèce de milieu high roller qui s'est créé dans le milieu du high roller et que finalement, ça a un petit peu enlevé, par exemple, sur les tournois à 10K, etc., les tournois 5K, 10K, il trouve que c'est beaucoup plus difficile aujourd'hui de remplir ce genre de field-là qu'avant. Et donc, soit les joueurs ont tendance à aller jouer des super high rollers, etc., mais que du coup, ça avait un petit peu enlevé le field des tournois 5K, 10K. Et que ça, c'était quelque chose qui allait un petit peu en descendant, il trouvait. Et par exemple, sur le tournoi online, il disait que, oui, effectivement, ça a été génial avec la période du Covid. Le premier mois, ça a été extraordinaire. Il y avait plein de joueurs qui venaient sur les tables et tout. Voilà, les séries, à ce moment-là, le premier mois, c'était magnifique. Mais il trouvait que dès le deuxième mois, ça avait quand même commencé à baisser. Et que, par exemple, tous les joueurs récréatifs qui étaient venus jouer le premier mois, ils n'avaient pas l'argent finalement pour revenir ensuite derrière. Parce que ils pouvaient pas se refaire sur tout ce qui était sport betting ou leur travail. Ils pouvaient pas regagner cet argent-là et que finalement dès le deuxième mois ils trouvaient qu'il y avait eu un déclin quand même et ils trouvaient une des par rapport à ses débuts, c'est-à-dire que les fiches de la table à l'époque où lui il a commencé à jouer, tu avais envie de les garder, tu voulais pas tout leur prendre, tu veux qu'ils reviennent la semaine d'après, qu'ils passent quand même un bon moment et leur laisser suffisamment d'argent finalement pour finir leur semaine et leur donner envie de revenir jouer. Et qu'aujourd'hui, c'est plus comme ça. Quand tu vois un fiche, la tendance aujourd'hui, c'est on va le détruire, on va prendre tout ce qu'il a. Et le problème, c'est que ces joueurs-là, ça leur donne pas envie de revenir et pas les moyens non plus de revenir. Et que ça, c'était quelque chose qui avait évolué plutôt dans le négatif. Que voilà, on respectait quand même moins finalement les fiches de la table. Et qu'on a tendance à trop vouloir prendre au lieu de finalement faire revenir, donner aux gens l'envie de revenir. Et que aussi le problème qui reste dans ce milieu, c'est qu'on reste trop orienté sur les résultats, sur les résultats qu'a eu quelqu'un dans sa carrière, et que finalement il y a tout le temps une blague qui font entre eux, c'est finalement le meilleur joueur du monde, c'est peut-être quelqu'un qui joue depuis le sous-sol de la cave de sa grand-mère, tu vois, et que finalement on n'a jamais su, il n'a jamais été révélé au monde parce qu'il n'a pas eu cette chance-là à un moment dans sa carrière d'atteindre un gros résultat, et que voilà, cette part de chance-là, on a tendance un peu à l'oublier et qu'on est trop tout le temps orienté sur les résultats de quelqu'un et que ça ne veut pas dire grand-chose au final, et que les gens vont faire attention à un gros résultat mais pas sur l'ensemble des moyens résultats que tu as fait sur toute l'année, et que c'est ça qui compte le plus en fait, la longévité, et que les gens font pas trop attention à ça, et que ça c'est pas quelque chose qui change, quoi.
C'est beaucoup d'espoir pour Comanche, ça, c'est beau.
Ouais. Je sais pas si vous
Avec
avez
des tournois
à rajouter en plus.
Non, ça va.
Non, pas particulièrement.
And one last question. Some players, they're talking about like a burnout effect after some years of playing poker constantly. Did you experience that too, and how to avoid it?
Yeah, you definitely get burnout, especially if you play a lot of volume. If you're one of these guys that play, for scoop, you load up every single day. And listen, a lot of these guys aren't used to how we came up in the game, where there was always a series to play. I mean, it was pretty common for us to lock up for 20 days and just play. I've been going to the WSOP since 2009, where every summer I go the entire summer. I'm not one of those guys where I go for a week of events or 2 weeks of events. I'm usually there 2 weeks early to play cash games, to refresh my memory of the difference in play between Europeans and Americans, because I've been playing against Europeans for most of the year, and there is a difference. And so I usually go and play cash to even get myself kind of in that mind frame. But I think during certain periods, you just get yourself into a good routine. Like WSOP, I was in a very good workout, health, eating routine where I lose weight. Like Corona's been horrible for me because I don't have motivation here, you know. But and so for me, actually during the series, around the point when everybody else was getting tired, I would actually find myself getting stronger because I had this good like set routine that kind of gave me like powered me through it. But by the time the series is over, like I couldn't go touch poker for at least like a month. And I usually don't. Like after the series, I come home and I never play poker again unless it's like Barcelona, some event there, then I'll go play in like August. But like what I do for burnout is just balance. I do a lot more things in life that I didn't do before. You know, take a trip just to take a trip. Because in the past, I would always associate a poker trip as a vacation. Oh, we're going to this city, so it's a vacation. But not if you're going there to play. You know, if I go there with my girl and I'm playing 10 out of the 12 days, it's not much of a vacation. Yeah. So what I've started doing is separating the two and just go on a vacation that's just a vacation. Don't touch poker. Go to the park. Like things with animals, things with nature, outdoors, just stuff that kind of like gives you a complete reset from what you're doing. You know, our community's turned a lot more towards this. Like when I first came in this thing, if you told people you were going to eat healthy so that you could play better poker, people would laugh at you. You know, now it's pretty common actually. There's a pretty good core of poker players that have a good eating routine, have a good workout routine. There's high rollers who take beta blockers on final tables. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But for me, I just separate it. I don't play poker. I go out and enjoy nature. My daughter now provides a lot of that for me, whereas before I would just take a lot of trips. I was huge on traveling. But I think it's good to get away. And it doesn't mean you have to leave poker alone. You could not play poker for 2 weeks, but you could still watch podcasts. You could watch a Twitch. But it's just to change from what you were doing, from sitting and from having to be forced to sit in front of the screen for the entirety of an MTT session, which is, you know, 5 to 15 hours. Yeah. Whereas if you're watching the podcast, if you get bored, you can pause it. You can watch it more later. So you don't have to leave poker out of it. But I think it's good to turn it on, turn it off. Obviously, you're going to have some other guys who are trying to be the top 1% who are going to argue, hey, you don't need balance now. I have balance when I'm old. But, you know, I'm one of these guys that I've learned in life. You never know what life is going to give you. You know, I didn't think when I was working in my big time business job that I would go pursue working for my own self, risking my own money in a gambling career. You know, but then the opportunity presented itself. I rolled with it and turned it into something. And so to think that you have the benefit of saying, hey, I'm going to sacrifice everything now, so in 10 years, for me, that's too scary of something to commit to, because I don't know what my life looks like in 10 years. I don't know what might happen. And I don't want to have a life of regrets or non-experiences. I don't want to have a car accident and have something happen to my legs and then think about all the things I would have liked to have hiked. You know what I mean? I don't want to live life that way. So I just try to do a lot of those kinds of things that like bring me joy, add to the experiences. I've always been an experience guy. Like I never took my money and bought something like super obnoxious. Like I bought a car, it was like a $28,000 car. I could have bought a $60,000 car. I didn't. You know, I had $500,000 from the series. I could have bought whatever car I wanted. I was living in Mexico at the time, didn't think a flashy car made sense. Bought a Nissan Altima, was happy with it. Yeah. I bought a watch, like I bought a Hublot watch, like a 10K watch or something. But I mean, I had hundreds of thousands at many different points in my career. I never said, hey, I'm going to go spend 80K on this. I'm going to go, you know, I just never did that. But I was always the guy that if I woke up and I want to take a trip to Amsterdam, I'll wake up, I'll look at flights, I'll book a flight and I'll go. or if I wanted to do an experience or go rafting or go hiking or any of these kinds of things. Like I jumped out of a plane once and I'm scared of heights. So like, but it was something I wanted to check off the list. Like, would I do it now? No chance you would get me in there now. But at the time that it happened, I was in the right place, the right time. So I try to live life by this. And like, I could have saved more money in my career if I didn't do these things. But I already have a life full of experiences that if my career were to end tomorrow, if I was never to win another dollar in poker, I have so many memories I can already take away from this game that complete my playing of this game for me. And the same kind of equates for life. Like I hope to live a very long time, but if something were to happen to me, I've already experienced so many things that like I can have a life full of memories that as long as I have mental functions, I have so many things to pull from and think about and reflect on. And to me, that was always worth more than this stuff, you know, because I grew up in this poor family where all you were told was get stuff. And then I got some money and I started buying stuff. And I just realized like, it doesn't in and of itself make you happy. It doesn't change anything if you don't change, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then once I changed, I valued these experiences and things more than I did say things. Not to say like, if I buy a house, it's not a nice house. If I go out to dinner, it's, you know, I have what dinner I want, but, you know, they're within some kind of reason, you know? So yeah, I'm quite happy with the way I've chosen to live life and play the game. And, you know, obviously I was younger. I was way more crazier, I guess, like most players, where I'm much more calm and relaxed now. That's about the only difference. But yeah, just for me, I think it's just good to do these things, have friends who aren't just all poker players. Like we used to have a rule, whereas when we went on dinner break of major tournaments, you could not talk about poker. Like if you had one hand that was actually burning you to death, you could get it out and you had to get it out right away. But like apart from that, we never spent our dinner breaks during the World Series talking about poker. Because in my mind, you're playing poker every day, all day. Like take that hour and a half and talk about life. Go do something. Like we'd go on drives sometimes during the dinner break, you know, play video games, whatever. But like the last thing you should be doing is continuing to fill your mind with like the same thing, because then it becomes this obsessive, like compulsive kind of fixation. And like poker can teach you a lot about life. Poker can earn you a lot in life, but poker is not life. And if you don't have some of this life in it, I think you kind of get lost by the game. And then what happens is years pass by and you kind of wonder what happened, you know, and I never wanted to do that. So like I went probably too far on the experience side. Like I've always just, if whatever I've wanted to do, generally I've been able to do. And I think that comes from when I was a child and I couldn't do barely anything I wanted to do. That for me, it's just such a freedom that freedom makes me feel rich. Mm-hmm. And that freedom to me is like so valuable to have that I value it like as such. So I think that's all I'd recommend. Obviously you can eat well, you can exercise, you can do these things that make you feel less crappy like when you're playing so much. But for me, it's all about balance.
Mm-hmm. Non, parce que je demandais, il y a beaucoup de joueurs, on en avait parlé par exemple avec Anna Marquez et tout, je ne sais pas si vous vous en rappelez, qui disaient qu'ils ont connu un burn-out et que donc je demandais si lui aussi ça lui était arrivé et puis comment éviter ce genre de choses. Et donc il a dit évidemment ça arrive un peu à tout le monde et c'est normal parce que quand on passe sa vie à jouer au poker, forcément à un moment donné, voilà, ça devient usant. Il disait que pendant les WSOP, ça arrive à beaucoup de joueurs parce que tu joues non-stop, mais lui, au contraire, c'était un moment qui lui donnait plutôt de la force, mais qu'à la fin des WSOP, il avait vraiment besoin d'arrêter pendant un mois de pas du tout jouer au poker et limite de recommencer, par exemple, à l'EPT Barcelone. mais que la dernière chose à faire, par exemple, il dit dans les main events, pendant les dinner breaks, la dernière chose à faire, c'est de continuer à parler des mains de poker pendant le dinner break, quoi. Que si tu as vraiment une main qui te tourmente vraiment, ok, vas-y, sors là, parle-en, mais sinon, parle d'autre chose, fais autre chose quand c'est les breaks, que de constamment genre remplir ton cerveau de poker et de jamais avoir de break. Voilà, de parler de la vie, de faire un tour, de marcher un peu dehors, faire un tour en voiture, n'importe quoi, mais essayer de se sortir un petit peu le poker de la tête, parce que quand tu penses à ça et que tu passes ton temps à jouer et ensuite à parler de ça et que tu n'as aucun équilibre, c'est forcément tu vas avoir un burn-out à un moment donné. Et que le poker, ça fait partie de la vie, mais c'est pas ça la vie, et que c'est vraiment hyper important de trouver un équilibre. Que lui, aujourd'hui, il arrive beaucoup plus à avoir cet équilibre. Au début, il faisait pas mal de trucs un peu fous et tout, mais que c'est important de voilà, essayer de, tu vois, prendre des vraies vacances. Lui disait, par exemple, au début, quand il voyageait pour un tournoi, il disait on part en vacances, mais qu'au final, si tu passes 10 jours à jouer au poker et 2 jours à visiter une ville, c'est pas des vacances, c'est un voyage de poker, mais c'est pas des vacances. Et donc de faire des vraies choses en dehors où il n'y a rien à voir avec le poker. Et même si tu fais un break de poker à un moment donné dans ta carrière, ça ne veut pas dire que tu peux pas du tout faire des choses qui sont en rapport avec le poker. Tu peux regarder des vidéos, tu peux écouter un podcast, etc. Mais tu n'es pas obligé de, voilà, sans jouer, tu peux quand même un petit peu te rafraîchir la mémoire et faire des choses qui sont en rapport avec le poker, mais que tu n'es pas obligé de, voilà, sans jouer, tu peux quand même parler de poker. Mais que c'est vraiment important de trouver un équilibre. Et ce qu'il disait aussi, que j'avais oublié, ce qui était marrant, la différence entre ses débuts et aujourd'hui, il disait quand il jouait au poker à ses débuts, les sharks, c'était genre les joueurs américains. Et les fiches, c'était plutôt les joueurs européens, etc. Et qu'aujourd'hui, ça, c'est un truc qui a vachement évolué. Et que c'est plutôt, ça paraît aberrant de dire ça aujourd'hui, mais qu'à l'époque, ils pensaient comme ça et que c'était plus ça. Et qu'aujourd'hui, c'est quelque chose qui a totalement basculé. Mais que voilà, c'est bien de... Lui, il en a profité comme il voyait la vie, c'était de profiter des choses, faire des choses que tu peux pas faire. Il dit, par exemple, il a sauté d'un avion alors qu'il a le vertige. Faire plein de trucs comme ça, c'est des choses qu'il ne referait pas aujourd'hui, mais un petit peu de checker les choses, tu vois, dans sa checklist. Du fait qu'il vienne d'un milieu aussi très humble et très populaire, lui, il sait jamais, tu vois, il n'a jamais été dans la folie des grandeurs à acheter des trucs à 80 000, 70 000, à acheter une voiture à 60 000 euros et tout. C'est jamais des trucs qu'il a pensé faire, même si à un moment donné, il avait l'argent pour. Et que donc voilà, c'est garder un petit peu cette notion des choses et cet équilibre qui est super important. Mais que si vous sortez jamais le poker de l'esprit, forcément, vous aurez ce burn-out à un moment donné. Voilà, en gros, j'ai résumé. And,
Bravo Gaël.
So yeah, thank you. That was really really nice to talk with you. I guess you're staying in Prague right now, so you're gonna keep playing online for a while now.
Yeah, but it's going to be online for a while. I'm going to take some time off, I think, until this WSOP series, and then online until we see what happens with live. Yeah. Who knows?
Good luck for WSOP. So.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hopefully you guys got what you were looking for, and it was nice chatting and kind of learning. I could talk about the old days forever, just because they're the fondest memories for me of poker, because it was the discovery phase, you know. Now it's not discovery. There's being discoveries, but it was a different era. You know, you might have figured something out nobody knew, and they wouldn't know for 6 months. You know, I miss those days. So it's nice to talk about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really interesting too, because you have some interesting thoughts that we don't really talk about usually. So it was really interesting to talk with you. And cool. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you guys, and talk to you.
Take care, bye bye. Kiss Sophie. Bye, Sophie.
Bye, Sophie.
Ciao.
Ciao.